How you doing, people? Welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm Dave Rubin. We've got a TYT All-Star cast for you this week. Jayar Jackson, Alonso Duralde, and it was the State of the Union last night. Barack Obama's 5th State of the Union. We thought it might be 6, but they don't do one like 2 days after the inauguration. So it was his 5th State of the Union last night, and they pretty much covered the whole damn thing. We're just going to show you one little video clip here. I like this when he was talking about equal pay for women, and then of course the cameras have to show you women, because how else would you know what women look like if they didn't show you them while they're talking about them? Let's look.
You know, today, women make up about half our workforce, but they still make 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. That is wrong. And in 2014, it's an embarrassment. Women deserve equal pay for equal work.
That's right, women, and we've got women right here. Now, those women all do get equal pay for equal work because they're in the Congress and the Senate and so on. So I always think things like that are the funny things, really, because without, we'll get into some of the substance. But don't you think, like, the way they shoot it, and, if you talk about a black person, you have to show a black person. Quick, show a black person. Yeah, there you go.
I blame award shows for this. I always remember, like, one year that Pedro Almodovar won an Oscar, and they had to, oh my God, find a Hispanic. Gloria Estefan, great, yes, her. My favorite being Jodie Foster's super awkward coming out speech at last year's Golden Globes,
yes,
and they cut to Jane Lynch kind of going, am I being insulted right now?
Right.
It was, so that has clearly bled into now the C-SPAN coverage.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's, awkward moments are underrated. I love them. So what I always hope for when they show these folks and they shoot them, you expect all the women to stand up and applaud and give the standing ovation. One of them to go, yeah. Just give me one of them. So we can go, wait, I didn't expect it. Get away, cut away, cut away, cut away.
Where's Kay Bailey Hutchinson when you need her,
Yeah. Speaking of women, though, why wasn't Hillary there? Now, I know she's not working for the administration at the moment, but you'd think she'd show up or at least get an invite to something of this nature,
She is very cagily lying low.
She is.
This whole year has been about, like, it's sort of like how Anne Hathaway went away. She is sort of waiting, making us want her back. Yeah. Figuring out what her next move is going to be, hedging her bets, So she's very shrewdly making herself absent.
Everyone realizes that even opponents that are going to, be fighting against her for 2016, is they're trying to keep her relevant only in the negative tones. They're going to bring up Benghazi every once in a while and say,
you think that one time hearing about that?
Yeah, but like they want to say every once in a while. They want to splat it in because she really is. I really do think you're right that she's laying low, thinking, when I come back, they're gonna go, oh shit, that's right. Come on, it's a good plan as far as the regular American mindset.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, her Hillary Ready for 2016 Twitter account is verified, which I'm pretty sure means she's running for president, in case there's any doubt about that. But all right, let's talk about substance a little bit. The big thing was that Obama is saying he's going to do it alone if Congress won't help him, and he's going to use executive actions. Of course, this has the Republicans in a tizzy, although 5 years in, Reagan used far more executive orders, as did Bill Clinton. But do you guys think it's sort of just bad precedent and bad, it's not even precedent at this point, it's been done, but is it just bad politics in the long term to sort of be skipping a branch of government, even if that branch of government is useless and has a 7% approval? JR.
I guess maybe this is the shout out to the left or his liberal base in doing it, because this is what people have been asking. Not necessarily this particular route about it, but at least to get more, to have a stronger message towards this branch of government that isn't doing anything. And maybe the one way around it is to go with some executive orders. Other than that, it's just to keep browbeating them and tell them how much they're not working, and then say, well, I'm trying to work with you, but then you're not really working with me, which has been the constant narrative.
Right, and
it's
he's
not
running
working.
out of time.
Right, yeah, and then so all they pose him as is this weak president who gets nothing done.
Exactly, if all they do is block him and he remains blocked, they win. So I think really he's not losing much. He basically is going to annoy the people who are already annoyed with him for whatever reasons you have.
Right.
So there's nothing to lose here. I think all it's going to do is basically strengthen his base, get those people who are annoyed at the gridlock back on his side, and ideally, backing those Democratic senatorial candidates this year.
Yeah. So I'm agreed with you guys on that he sort of has to do this because Congress is useless. But if it was the other side, if this was a Republican president, doing this. Wouldn't we all be pissed about this? That he, you know, if the Democrats were trying to block his agenda, which maybe we wouldn't agree with, wouldn't we all be pissed? So shouldn't we sort of have the same standard regardless of
Look,
who's-
if the Democrats could be single-minded enough to block anybody's
Right, they're just not
agenda
that
from the
good at
Hill,
it.
then we could even debate, like figure out that hypothetical. But given how much we rolled over and played dead during the Bush years, you know, I don't even know that it's comparable.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, again, we'd have to create a whole different mindset of this world where Democrats are doing the same level of obstruction that's going on now. And we kind of sat and watched President Bush and Vice President Cheney run roughshod and do whatever they wanted. So we kind of saw it happen. It just wasn't with the same, I guess, the same strategy in mind.
Yeah, in a way, isn't this sort of a president's dream? Because Congress's approval is so low that he knows that he can pretty much do whatever he wants because everyone hates them. So they've sort of given, by being so awful, they've sort of given him a great gift here, haven't they?
In a way, yeah, and I think once we get past the midterms, because that's the one last thing that he has to sort of not ostracize too much of the American public over. Once those babies are over, he is a man unfettered. I can't wait to see what Obama 2015, 2016 is going to be like.
And it'll work out great. I think the other side of it is going to be a twofold thing. First, he threatens with his more executive powers, but then he's pushing things like immigration and saying, "Are you guys going to really, in coming up on 2014, are you really going to continue to fight against immigration, legal immigration, and people that are already here?"
Right,
So
if
that
you
a lot
want
of
the Latino
Republicans,
vote.
they're starting to worry. No, oh man, we're not going to get elected if we keep fighting against Latinos. Oh, this gay rights agenda is moving forward. You're starting to see some people start to peel off because they don't worry about actual policy. They care about their jobs. So if he pushes both those two narratives of I'm going to work harder and I'm going to make sure you guys look worse in other ways other than just saying you're lazy, maybe it's going to push some of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
Not
talk
many.
about a couple other the policy things. I was sort of disappointed that the NSA. Have you heard about this situation? We're going to get to it several times later on the show. It only got about 2 lines, and they were sort of throwaway lines. It was really nothing. Has he really just gotten off the hook with the NSA thing? It seems like he sort of has come out of this unscathed, like he didn't know about it, kind of thing.
I think it's going to eventually gloss over. I missed the 2 points. When you said he's mentioned twice, I was trying to remember when those
It
two
was sort
happened.
of one thought, but just 2 sentences in a row, and then that
I
was
missed
it.
both sentences.
Yeah, so
That's
well,
how
then there
small
you
it
go.
was.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, and we talked about this a little on the point last week. I think that for most people, the NSA thing, they're sort of horrified to hear about it, but at the same time, they've kind of resigned themselves to the fact that there's no privacy left in this internet world and that the government is always kind of pulling these sort of shenanigans. So I don't know that it has an outrage that sticks.
Yeah.
You hear a new thing and you go, oh, that's terrible, and then it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we're going to get to one of the new things
Yeah.
in a segment shortly. You know, I was thinking last night during some of this that, you know, in a way, does he have to come off at the end of his 2 terms as a bit of a disappointment, no matter what he does? Because he came in on hope and change and this amazing thing, we're going to change the world and change the system. And if you watch that thing last night, it's just a politician. Like at the end of the day, he really is just a politician. So were we all kind of delusional for those first years, no matter what he accomplishes
The first
now?
years or just the first campaign?
I guess the first campaign, were we all sort of delusional in this idea, in this really incredible idea, more than now he's in it and he's a politician?
Well, I think we kind of always will because no one knows, at least us, outside of the whole bubble, knows what gets said and what gets done and why, to the fullest extent, why these guys do what they do. I mean, he came in and he was the picture of a change. That's what helped him.
Yeah.
If an old white guy comes in and says, I got hope and I've got change, we'll say, oh, maybe he's got hope, but I don't see any change here.
Right.
So like he embodied
Not
what
that much hope.
yeah, he embodied what he was saying so much that it was hard not to get caught up with it. So once there was a certain level of disappointment in him not doing everything we expected based on what he said, they were like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Well, he's just like, or in many ways, just like a lot of the other ones, and that's where it comes from. I think.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, that the idea was so big that no matter what he would have done, that in a way, the system isn't changed. Money isn't out of politics, those kind of things.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people get too excited about stuff. You know, look, if Kennedy had not been shot and had made it through 2 terms, there would have been the same sense of like, oh, well, he's not, you know, he's immortal, you know.
Yeah.
And I think in this, he's amortal is what I'm saying. And I think the same with Obama. It's like, yeah, he does not live to the sort of crazy expectations that we had in 2008, but we were also coming off of 8 years of horror. And I think that in the historical perspective, look at the bikini graph, look at whatever else that you just sort of look at the concrete accomplishments of this administration. Even if that burst of enthusiasm didn't pay off, we're still going to look back on somebody who really got us out of a terrible, terrible place, economically speaking, globally speaking, in a lot of ways.
All right, you gave us a little hope and change bow on that. I like that. And finally, we should talk about the Republican rebuttal. Kathy McMorris Rodgers, she gave the official GOP rebuttal on a very stiff couch. That was my main takeaway from it. Mike Lee gave the Tea Party rebuttal. Rand Paul gave the independent rebuttal, or was it the independent?
Rebuttal,
it was just the Rand Paul, I'm in a nuclear bunker, I can't be hit by a drone here rebuttal. And then John Boehner gave a 6-second Vine rebuttal. Did that even just show what a joke the Republicans are? That they had literally, and I think there was still another one that I'm forgetting, or there was a Spanish one from Ileana Ross Layton, that's all fine. But my point being that it's such a frayed party that even their rebuttals, which of course are pre-written, so they're not even responding to what was just said, that they all just seemed sort of canned and ridiculous.
What I noticed from the one official, I'm not sure how many official ones there are,
So
but
the
from Kathy McMorris Rodgers, it becomes I don't know, when I was looking into it, it becomes a coming out speech. So I don't know where, not that kind, but
not for a Republican anyway.
Exactly, where I'm not sure what other aspirations she has. But when you start giving your background, and then, my mom did this, and my father that, and I went to college because this, and my son has Down syndrome, and my daughter's awesome, just born 8 weeks ago. It's like, get to the State of the Union.
Yeah.
Instead, it becomes a small campaign speech about how awesome she is and how American she is and how you should support her. And I feel like that's going to be the next step. I'm not sure where she's trying to go with this.
Well, I think on one level, it's a way for the party to be like, check this person out. But it's been, I think having us check out, Bobby Jindal was a big mistake.
That was a disaster.
And I think every year it sort of winds up. I think it's become the who gets the short straw. I think before people probably clamored for it, but it is that spot has a curse on it now. I think.
That's actually a really great point, because so they thought Bobby Jindal was going to be the next star, and his rebuttal was a disaster. Then Marco Rubio last year was the Watergate beyond disaster, and I don't know that she shined in any way that's gonna launch her. But there was plenty of media coverage about the whole thing, so this brings us perfectly to what's next, which is there was the whole Bieber thing last week. I don't want to talk about the eggs or the drunkenness or the weed or the arrest or any of that. But this was fascinating. On MSNBC, Andrea Mitchell reports, Andrea was talking to former Congresswoman Jane Harman about NSA domestic spying. I think this is an important issue, and then suddenly had to break in and stop her for breaking news.
Seriously consider not continuing
Congresswoman
Section
Harman,
215
let me
and getting
interrupt you. Congresswoman, let me interrupt you just for a moment. We've got some breaking news out of Miami. Stand by, if you will. Right now in Miami, Justin Bieber has been arrested on a number of charges. The judge is reading the charges, including resisting arrest and driving under the influence. He's appearing now before the judge for his bond hearing. Let's watch.
Okay, so she was talking about the NSA domestically spying on our phone calls, but had to be interrupted because Bieber was being arraigned. Is this just the death? Finally, is this the final nail in the coffin of mainstream media? It is so embarrassingly awful. And Andrea Mitchell, who I have no great love for, you could even see she was pained to even have to break away. So I don't put all the blame on her, because it's producers and executives and all that. But is this just the death of this thing?
Well,
Alonso?
I think CNN.com devoting their front page to Miley Cyrus twerking was maybe the first salvo in all this. I mean, it's terrible, but unfortunately, I think they get rewarded for it. I think that they probably get the numbers that they want to get, and so they feel like they have to do it. And I remember there was some journalist somewhere, I'm forgetting now where, who basically wrote a column in which he vowed he would never write about Paris Hilton again. Yeah. He goes, I'm not going to be part of the problem here. I'm just going to, I'm stopping. The rest of you can do what you want to do. I quit. And I think if any of the major news networks took a similar, we are not going to interrupt a discussion of NSA domestic spying to talk about Justin Bieber or anybody else, I think that there would be at least a segment of the viewership that would say, bravo.
Yeah, well, to that end, I did ban myself from tweeting about the Kardashians after the wedding thing. After the divorce, I was like, that's it, and I have not tweeted about them once. So I'm doing my part.
We were all left broken by that.
I wonder to what point there's someone who is still into this. Because, as you said, you felt there was a little bit of pain from Andrew Mitchell and having to do it. The producers who were in the ear said, go, 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 break to Justin Bieber. I'm sure they're going, why are we breaking to Justin Bieber? But they have to. Somewhere up the ladder, there's someone who's making a decision enough that really thinks this is great. There must be. I mean, all the way to the top can't be saying, God, this sucks, but I can't do anything about it. Somebody can do something about it, but no one will because someone really believes in this. Where does that break-off happen is what I wonder.
I don't think anyone knows, and that's why I think it keeps happening. Nobody sort of knows who's in charge and who should make those decisions. But is this sort of ultimately why cable news was doomed to failure from the start? We've had a run of it for 15 years or something, but at some point we used to have the public airwaves, and ABC, NBC, and CBS would give you the news, and there were trusted people like Walter Cronkite. But then when it became all about ratings on cable news, that then they feel they have to do this stuff, whether they have to or not. But so don't we need our cable, our airwaves back?
Well, I think Pandora's box is open. I mean, the 24-hour cable, as we have discovered, is a beast that has to be fed. And that's why Nancy Grace has a show. And that's why she can devote endless hours on these murder trials that are not news to the general public.
Right.
Is
there anything that's more drivel than the minutia of a trial? Really, any of these trials when they show them all day long? Could you think of anything that would be more of a waste of time?
It becomes this sort of desperate need to just fill those hours with something, And I think that MSNBC has been classier than that up until now, and I think that's why so many people are paying attention to this. If Fox had done it, I don't think it would be getting the kind of blowback that we're experiencing now, because they've been very happy to do in-depth articles about sexual harassment at Hooters or whatever if it meant showing B-roll footage of scantily clad women. But I think MSNBC was say what you will about their politics, was thought to be a little classier than this.
Yeah. You know what? The thing is, I'm all for. If you want to watch Justin Bieber in the courtroom, there's tons of channels. That's what those are there for. I mean, like you said, you have CNN, you have Headline News, you have all the ones that they have their thing. As I said, Nancy Grace likes to do these ridiculous murder trials and then also go after every particular kidnapped child. But those have their venues. Watch Justin Bieber. It should be on a particular channel. So you go, I'm sick of the NSA stuff. I know they're doing 24 Justin Bieber.
So make TMZ a 24-hour channel.
Make TMZ a channel, or let HLN handle that stuff and let CNN actually handle the news. Every time we do a story like this, people say, "Well, why are you talking about Bieber at all or any of that?" But on YouTube, the beauty of what we can do is you just click what you want to click. We're not tricking you into clicking it or showing it for an hour. So isn't that ultimate sort of validation for what you do by being part of an online?
Yeah, and that argument about, well, you guys are covering it, so you're part of the problem too. You know what? But we're talking about why it's ridiculous. So if we just sit back and be quiet about it.
We're talking about the media angle. We're not talking about the story itself.
Yeah, so we're not going, and by the way, what did Justin Bieber say to that judge? We didn't bring any of that stuff up. We don't care about that. But if no one talks about the problem, and it would just be quiet about it, we're just allowing it to happen just as much. Because obviously, you, the person who's complaining, can be sitting there
and just
going,
that guy over there somewhere.
You could be sitting there watching Justin Bieber and go, oh, nothing I can do about it.
No, well, Network came true. That's an entire movie about what happens when the news division falls under the entertainment division umbrella. And that's what happened, And now, you're right. News shows have to have ratings. News shows have ad rates. And so they now are falling under the same rubric as whatever other crap is on TV.
Yeah, Alonso, you're good because I'm about to make a network reference in the next segment right there. So let's do some more NSA stuff because this broke this week, and it gets to what these guys were saying earlier, that we keep hearing so much about this stuff that now we're just forgetting it the second that it happens. So NBC News obtained NSA documents that were taken by Snowden that reveal that the British government is able to tap into the actual fiber cables so that they can see what people are doing on Facebook and on YouTube and on pretty much whatever you're doing online. The monitoring program is called Squeaky Dolphin.
The documents leaked by former NSA employee Edward Snowden and obtained by NBC News include a top-secret presentation of a pilot program given to American intelligence officials by GCHQ, the British equivalent of the NSA. The slides show how British spies are capable of tapping into fiber optic cables and pulling unencrypted high-speed data, including YouTube addresses. They analyze the information to answer critical questions. None of the data is gathered within the U.S., sources say, but Americans who use these websites overseas may have their online activity monitored. The NSA says they operate within the law and do not spy on the social media activities of ordinary Americans.
Well, if sources say that they don't spy and the NSA says they're not doing it, then I'm sure they're not. Of course, Google and Facebook say they knew nothing about this, and then the NSA actually did release a statement. The NSA is not interested in the communications of people who are not valid foreign intelligence targets. Any implication that the NSA's foreign intelligence collection is focused on the social media communications of everyday Americans is not true. We collect only those communications that we are authorized by law to collect for valid foreign intelligence and counterintelligence purposes, regardless of the technical means used by the targets. Now, of course, they're going to say that, and I'm even going to grant them a little bit of maybe that's true, but isn't there really no way they would know that that's true? Because anybody that's looking at the information could do whatever they want with it.
Saying is,
sort of like Snowden, right?
Yeah, what they're saying is we don't go through the internet to get regular everyday Americans conversations. We do that through the phone taps. we have two different arms at it. It reaches to different things, so we don't worry about it. We have that covered somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's where that's saying.
When they release statements like this, how do you possibly take them to be true or factual?
I basically figure in 15 years someone's going to write the tell-all that basically describes how that was a total lie.
Yeah.
I call me paranoid, but that's sort of what it's gotten to at this point. I kind of feel like so. Luckily, no one is watching this on YouTube.
Oh, not this. I hope not. But if you are watching, please click the ad because that'll help. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this is that the NSA and the GCHQ, they say it's important so that they can monitor trends in case of riots or uprisings or things like that. So here in America, where we have freedom of speech, isn't this the scariest possible thing? That they could be monitoring us for pre-riots? You know what I mean? That before we even have a chance, that they could be cutting us off.
That's what I'm thinking. And what riots will become then is protests. Maybe some kind of when we had damn it, I'm forgetting the name of it. The Wall Street
Occupy.
Yeah. See, it was that's
They're
exactly
sending waves
right
to
away.
your brain,
They're
man.
stopping me.
Yeah.
So I mean, even before these things get started, they collectively call everything a riot or an uprising
All
or
dissent
revolution against the
becomes,
government. Yeah. So everything you say becomes that level, and they can, as we know how they call a lot of people who are involved in it. Look at these uprisings. They're trying to get against the society, against our government, our way of life. But then if it's on the other side, it goes straight to what's happened to our freedom of speech.
Well, it's the who's a terrorist and who's a freedom fighter has always been in the eye of the beholder, unfortunately. And I think that it becomes very easy to sort of, oh no, we're only doing that for these people, but no, not to worry, you're over here, and that's where it just gets a little squicky for me.
So taking it from the reverse of the people that say I'm doing nothing wrong, how do we, people that are aware that this stuff's going on and acknowledge it, how do we not go down the rabbit hole of paranoia with it? Because I don't think necessarily the entire system is built by people that are actually trying to do damage. I think a lot of them are trying to do good, but of course that can be used in awful ways. But how do we not be paranoid about it and think that your webcam's not looking at you all the time or any of that kind of stuff?
Because you know what, and I hate that, I think to a certain extent, you have to go. I mean, not because I think we should, but there's going to come to a point where we have to say, well, I'm not doing anything. Because we can't do much about everything. We can do something to a certain extent, so there comes a point where you go, okay, fine, they know that I watched this video. Okay.
Look,
it's not
big
that
damn
bad.
whoop.
If Target can't keep our credit card information secret, I don't trust YouTube and whoever else is going to keep all of our other data, secure either.
Yeah.
Again, this is where you get into that resignation of, well, this is what happens now that we're on the internet and we are vulnerable to having our cookies examined. I think at some point you either devote your life to sort of trying to, fight back against this sort of thing, or you sort of, I don't know. I feel like at times I shrug my shoulders, like, well, this is the world we live in now. What are we going to do about it?
Well, what are we going to do about it? So I watched the movie Network. You gave me the cue a moment ago. The movie Network, I believe it was 1977. Did it win the Oscar for Best Picture?
No, it lost to Rocky, actually.
It lost to Rocky, and Star Wars, I think, was also up that year.
That was the following
year. Okay, I'm close. But I watched the movie Network. You guys must watch this movie, 1977, all about a corporation and media and bullshit and all the things that we talk about here all the time. Are we ever going to have the Howard Beale moment? Because the iconic moment from the movie is when he's doing a news piece and he gets up and he says, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore," and that's sort of where the movie jumps off from. Is there anything that could happen that would cause Americans to have that moment? Do we need a public figure? Do we need a news person or a politician, somebody to really snap in half?
The thing is, Howard Beale is insane, and what happens is that the network exploits that for ratings.
Right.
You know, so I think one could argue that already happened. I think everything in network has pretty much already happened at this point. That's the scary thing about it. That movie was satire in 1976, and now you look at it like, yeah, well, they saw that coming. You know, I mean, Patty Chayefsky totally read the writing on the wall, and so yeah, now you have this corporate-driven media. You have news as entertainment. You have an agenda that comes through based on who's buying the ads, and you know it's terrifying. But here we are.
So who can save us?
Let's
Can
say-
anyone save us? We need a Neo to break through the Matrix, right?
Yeah, the thing is, if it happens, and I go back to a little bit of the Justin Bieber and Andrea Mitchell, if she got the message in her ear, we have to do Justin Bieber in this because we have breaking news. You know, we're not going to that. If she did it, I mean, a lot of people would support her, but then it would go away. Whatever would happen to her, of course, she wouldn't get fired over something like that. But if it's someone that's lower profile, they're like, okay, get out of here. You're not following what we need to do here. You're killing us. And so they would just get pushed aside, and no one will think about them anymore. So how, if it does happen, we have this thing where collectively we say, you're being crazy. You see that guy Snap on TV? On every website, you'd see CNN anchor loses his mind, flips out, runs off camera. He must have lost his shit.
Yeah.
And we write him off as crazy.
You know, it's funny. Every time I'm watching Wolf Blitzer, that's what I think. When this guy is such a freaking robot and an emotion, the guy couldn't improv his way out of a wet paper bag. And it's like, he's the one, I think, that if he had a human moment, maybe could get people to wake up. But I give CNN I'm pretty much the only one watching, so maybe that won't happen. All right, let's talk about the gays. So marriage in Oklahoma, gay marriage, it's going to happen because a judge overruled the gay marriage ban. Pretty good. Okay, we all agree, I think, that that's pretty good. But then Republican Mike Turner is proposing that they throw out marriage altogether in Oklahoma as a way of getting around gay marriage. He's so clever, isn't he?
Critics are calling it a political stunt. Supporters say it's what Oklahomans want.
They're willing to have that discussion about whether or not marriage needs to be regulated by the state at all.
Representative Mike Turner says his fellow conservative lawmakers feel the same way, finding a way around the court's decision to strike down Oklahoma's ban on same-sex marriage by not providing marriage at all.
Would it be realistic for the state of Oklahoma to say we're not going to do marriage, period?
That would definitely be a realistic opportunity, and that's something that would be part of the discussion.
That man is a fucking idiot. The sanctity of marriage, that's what they're always talking about, but he's willing to throw out marriage altogether in his state just so the gays can't get married. Is this nothing more than a political stunt, or am I a cynic?
I'm going to
Alonso?
shock you. I kind of agree with him. I think that if the right wing is going to get its panties in a knot about the word marriage and calling same-sex unions marriage, then fine. Take the government out of the marriage business entirely. Have everybody get the same level of benefits from their civil union or whatever you want to call it, and leave marriage to the church. There are some churches that will marry same-sex couples. There are some churches that won't. But you know what? When I got my first communion, I didn't go to the DMV to get it applied for. So make marriage a religious thing and make the societal government thing something else that everybody gets equal access to.
Right. Okay. So there's obviously a solid argument in that, and that there's a difference between the religious end of it and the civil end.
As long as Oklahoma lets same-sex couples and opposite-sex couples get the same stuff, I'm fine with it.
Okay, so I can go along with you on that, but this is still just a political. This guy doesn't really want to throw out marriage.
He's a crybaby. Yes, I'm going to give you that too.
And that's the thing. And it's so focused on being a crybaby, he doesn't realize how crazy he's making himself look. And let's keep it real. This guy, if he's married, I think he is. He's probably like, I'm so sick of this woman. He said, what can I do? What can I do to get to just end this without actually getting a divorce?
I mean, they could call this bill taking our ball and going home. I mean, that is what's happening here. But on one level, I'm down with that. I think that if the institution of marriage, as though it were this unchanged thing over the millennia, which it isn't, because women don't come with dowries anymore. I think if that's the thing that is standing in the way of same-sex couples and same-sex parents being treated differently in this country, then ditch it.
Right, but it's not really though, because it is happening one at a time.
No, absolutely.
Right?
But I'm just saying, I'm all, as long as we're equal, as long as we get the same goods as everybody else, call it whatever, but don't call yours a marriage and call mine a union.
Yeah.
We're all unions or we're all marriages.
Is this one of these issues, that this guy in particular, Mike Turner, is this one of these things where it's like, in a way, our country's too big? Because most people, the polls show it, have moved past the gay marriage thing. Gay people are sick about talking, nobody wants to talk about it anymore. We get it, people just want equality. But then we have these people in these tiny little districts that say crazy things, and then it makes national news. So is it partly a problem of just how our whole system operates?
But is this going to take him anywhere, is what I wonder.
Right, is this a winning issue? Well, maybe in his little district in Oklahoma, who knows?
To get to what level, I mean, this isn't national politics, obviously, but then if this is a big political stunt and he's getting some attention for it, now he can move forward. To what ends? This guy needs a haircut. So,
he does need a haircut.
What it comes down to is the Supreme Court
he needs a gay hairstyle.
Totally,
That's
yes,
what he needs.
desperately. No, the Supreme Court just needs to finally, once and for all, lay it down and let us move past this. Because, frankly, if it weren't for Loving versus Virginia, if you still let the states decide, Mississippi would not have interracial marriage. The most recent surveys out of that state shows the majority of people are still against it.
Yeah.
But tough toenails majority of Mississippi, these are human rights. You don't get to vote on human rights. And so if until the Supreme Court finally lays down a similar hammer about same-sex marriage, we're going to have to deal with every little piddly county, state, thing about this issue.
So is this really the fault of the Supreme Court then? Because I'm glad you brought that up, because even when they flipped Prop 8, they said it was just for California.
And then that was a standing issue. It wasn't even about the merits of the case itself.
Right, so is there any reason to believe that well, first of all, we don't know that it's going back there again anytime soon.
I think eventually a case is going to be the one that they're going to have to make up their mind on. And when they do that, I think then we're gonna move past this. People are gonna be rankled about it, but it's not gonna be an issue anymore.
Yes, it's all the Supreme Court. That's why you keep hearing terms like states' rights, and we have to let these states each decide on what they want to do, and religious freedom, all these things, these small things to keep it insular to people like in Mississippi who still don't believe in even interracial marriage.
Right. Yeah. So this guy, Mike, I was about to call him Mike Rogers. That's the guy who outs closeted politicians, Mike Turner. Is he also just an example of why we can't have good politicians anymore? That our system is so screwed up, you know what I mean? And everybody's secrets, and now everyone's nude pictures are going to be out there, and that we're now going to grow up an even further generation of people. You're never going to get good people to go into politics anymore because of the scandals and the news cycle. Like, I feel like this guy's a nothing,
It may be part of it, but I think it's more that people are disenfranchised with the whole idea of what they can do once they're there. I mean, everyone has their particulars that they're going to be embarrassed by, but people who have those, a lot of times they're like, never going to get caught. So they're not necessarily worried about that. They're more worried, I think, if you talk about good politicians or good representatives of our country, they're going and thinking, I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the scandal threshold always changes. I mean, I remember in the 80s thinking, God, are we ever going to, is having smoked pot once going to always keep you out of higher office? And now nobody cares.
Yeah, now it's a prerequisite.
Practically, yeah. And so I think that as time goes on, there's a level of outrage that then diminishes. I think really what it boils down to, if you want to talk about why politics sucks right now, is because politicians are owned by their corporate backers, because running for office is so expensive. The only people who can do it are the ones who are in the pocket of some oil company or some other, interest who's going to basically boss around what they do and say for however long they're in office. And so we're going to get stuck with more and more shitty legislation that is pro-corporate and anti the interests of the American public.
Well said. So are you guys sick of these crazy long trailers? Every time you go to the movies, you get like 18, 20 trailers. I know Alonso's probably not. But you sit there for like 45 minutes or an hour before the movie actually starts. Well, the National Association of Theater Owners have released a set of optional guidelines to the studios. Movie trailers shouldn't be longer than 2 minutes, 30 seconds shorter than the standard right now. Trailers should not be shown more than 5 months from the film's release. Theaters would give each distributor 2 exceptions a year on both of these rules. And guidelines are technically voluntary and apply to titles opening on or after October 1st. So I have to stress here again, this is voluntary. Nobody has to do this. These are just guidelines that they're saying. Maybe you want to do this if you want to make the movie-going experience a little more enjoyable. But I have a feeling you love sitting there and probably sit there all day watching trailers.
No, actually, I really hate trailers.
Really?
Yeah, well, I'm spoiled because most of the movies I go see are advanced screenings for critics, and they don't have trailers on them as a general rule.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are movies that don't get shown to us. I have to to pay to see I, Frankenstein, and then I'm astonished at how many trailers there are, how long they are, and how much they give away. It's gotten to the point where I almost want to just leave the room because I feel like I try not to know about movies going in. I like to come in with as blank a slate as possible, and trailers want to show you the whole shebang before you walk in the theater, so that it already becomes, it's like you're seeing its own sequel by the time you see the actual film.
And isn't that bizarre that we live in a time where everything's becoming shorter and quicker, and yet trailers seem like they're getting longer? Like even something like the Planet of the Apes sequel that's coming out, I saw the trailer on YouTube for that, and it's like, you've given me everything. Like I get, like all they had to say was more monkeys, and some shit's gonna go down.
It's just the whole wedge of pre-show advertising is crazy. I mean, if I went to the movies more often, I would just be kind of horrified by how much you have to sit through. I mean, you go to an AMC theater, before the movie even starts, they're already running that first look thing, where they're talking to people on the new TNT drama or whatever, and then the lights go down, and then it's more ads and more trailers, and it's like,
don't forget the trivia. You got the trivia too.
Exactly.
And the word scramble.
Right,
Tom Hanks.
It's like, get to the fucking movie already.
So what am I missing in it? Like, okay, I'm going to ask the movie expert, where's the benefit for these movie theaters? I mean, not theaters, the production companies,
the distributors,
to play more of the movie that, like you said, show the whole damn thing. So you would think it would.
It seems like it's diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Well, I think actually, I mean, trailers have gotten longer, and I think what they figured out is that people are more inclined to buy a ticket to something that they know what they're getting than a pig in a poke. Yeah. And so that's why so many movies are sequels and remakes and retreads and reboots, because there's a familiarity there. And then if there isn't a familiarity, if you saw the trailer, you're familiar, and so if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. So clearly they figured out that it works. But I mean, this has been an ongoing thing. I remember back in the 90s, Douglas Copeland referring to Winnebagos, which were really big trailers, and so I obviously, from a marketing standpoint, they're getting something out of it. But I think that I can understand why the theaters are annoyed with it, and I, as an occasional consumer ticket buyer of movies, am also annoyed.
All right, so we got the pro movie guy's opinion on this. I hate them. I sit there, and thank God for Twitter, because I just pay no attention to any of them. But what do you do when you sit there? I mean, you've paid $15 probably to get in there, right? Mm-hmm. Then you get the commercials. You've already paid for popcorn and soda and the TNT first look and all that stuff. Aren't you angry? Like sometimes I'm actually angry by the time the movie starts.
There's times when I was watching and I see some trailers like, oh shit, that's gonna be good. I'm gonna see that. But first off, I have a really bad memory, and I see. This is the most embarrassing. Probably 2 movies a year at most.
And you don't know what they are.
Yeah, and it's not because I don't like going. Once I'm there, I'm like, oh, why don't I do this so much more? I just don't set aside the time in my brain to do it. So once I'm there, it changes every time, because it's from last year since last time I went. And I sit and I go, oh, they changed that now too. Oh shit, these are really getting long. And the last time I went, I took my son, he's 2, to see Frozen, because it was the only childlike enough movie, and I was like, let's take a Saturday afternoon, let's go catch a matinee so I can only spend $20. Yeah. And so so we're sitting there, and I'm thinking, this is his first movie going experience. I don't know if he's going to last. It's dark, it's loud, it's really like, it's a big experience. So I said, well, see, if he makes it through the first 45 minutes, it's a win. And we sat in, and it was a full Mickey Mouse movie that went in from the old school.
That's a short subject, which I actually really
and
good.
it went through the whole thing, and I was like, this is good, but we're not going to make it through this movie. I was like, we were half
a ticking time bomb.
Meanwhile, you fell asleep. He probably watched the whole
thing.
I'm
looking at him like, oh my God,
I would be down for more short subjects. Like that cartoon that's attached to Frozen, Get a Horse, is brilliant. And
it's great. That's the thing.
More of that. But the trailers. I mean, I've actually sat in audiences where they get to like the 4th or 5th trailer, and you hear people go, oh. Like, oh, come on, start the damn movie already. I mean, like, everybody in the theater just feels drained already.
Right, so in a day and age when we have Netflix and HBO Go and all this streaming stuff, how much longer until everything is released at once and you'll just have to pay a premium if you want to just get it streamed at home? Because that to me seems like what the future will be. If you've got the money, we'll just send it home. You don't even have to go out and deal with all the people and the popcorn and the...
Well, look, we're inching in that direction. I mean, there's already what they call day and date. For a lot of indie movies and smaller films, and even a lot of those films are made available on VOD 2 or 3 weeks, a month before they come out in theaters even.
Yeah, I'm from the old school, man. And although I don't watch movies that often, isn't it nice to sit in the theater and catch
No,
the whole
absolutely.
That's old
I
school.
always
But, like-
prefer to see it on the big screen, but boy, they make it difficult with all the advertising and the trailers.
True.
Yeah.
And then so it's only people who maybe can create their own movie theater experience at home would really take that in. You know, there's some people, of course, you hear about athletes and actors and musicians who have check out. Oh, I have this home theater in my house. It's like that's nice.
Yeah, but I'll tell you though, the new big TVs, have that sort of that Sony 4K, which is the same thing you're getting in your movie theater. And if if you're in a small enough multiplex or in a large enough living room, you start becoming the same thing.
Yeah, and you can make your own movie trailers for before that if you're so inclined.
And I'm sorry.
And
my favorite of those lists of non-rules is. You can't do it. Was it 5 months before the movie comes out? Because then again, I see a trailer, I'm like, oh, that's gonna be awesome. And it said coming out summer 2017. I remember this.
I'm always like, am I even gonna be alive at that point? What day is it?
Or you at least know that you're going to be seeing that same trailer a good 10 more times over the next 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. And again, these are all voluntary things, so most likely none of this will ever come to fruition. Okay, one more for you. Google Glass and sex. We've talked a lot about Google Glass, and I'm a firm believer that this really is going to completely change the way we react. And if you think you're being recorded all the time now, just wait till everyone's got it on their glasses and their contact lens and all that. So of course it's being used for sex and porn purposes. There was an app that was going to be on Google Glass called Tits and Glass, so that you'd be able to stream pornographic images and videos right to the Google Glass. It was originally banned on the store, then they brought it back. But the newest app is called Sex with Google Glass. And this is so that you and your partner can both be wearing Google Glass, having sex, and you could actually stream what the other person is seeing as you're having sex with them. So that's right, you could basically be having sex with someone and watching yourself have sex the entire time. Unfortunately, we don't have any video of this yet. I guess in the old days, this was just having a mirror on the ceiling, pretty much. So what do you think here? So Google Glass, is this thing going to be as big? We'll get to the sex stuff in a minute, but do you guys think this thing is going to be as big and change as much as I think?
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily the Google, like everyone's not necessarily going to be wearing this ridiculous looking contraption.
Right. Well, they're already coming out with designer ones.
It's going to get to the point where
I saw two people at Sundance wearing Google Glass, and they just D-bag by the big neon sign over their heads. People can't walk and text at the same time. I can't imagine how they're going to go through life while streaming and being connected. I don't know that we're that multitask oriented yet.
Although it could sort of help, because now there's everyone's looking down and people are walking into fountains and tripping on things and getting hit by cars. At least you'd be able to walk up. One other thing I forgot to mention: so the video that you can record on this thing will stay on your Google Glass for 5 hours and then it'll disappear, which also seems bizarre to me, because usually if you've had sex for 5 hours, you're okay without sex. Like, you don't need to watch it again. Maybe next day or something like that. But porn always is like an early adopter thing of what happens with the next technology. Porn helped give us online payment systems, spam, streaming content, VHS, live video chat, DVD, HD format, and broadband. All sort of were born out of people wanting to watch sex. What do you think about this disappearing idea, that the stuff's going to disappear? Does anyone believe, we've talked so much about the NSA today, would you ever believe that anything you put out there now is going to disappear?
No.
No, okay, next question.
And number two, I think maybe even people, if you're looking to record all this, as you said, the 5 hour span, people probably don't want it to disappear necessarily, do they?
Right, at that point, then you're going to have to get an external hard drive. And
If they can set it up so that you can see how disappointed your partner is with your performance, I think that might be useful. Otherwise, this seems incredibly sort of such a narcissistic way to have sex, that you're focusing on yourself even though you're looking at the other person with the thing, and I don't know.
It's zapping us. And I've made the zapping argument before on the main show about how we're just so connected to everything now, and I'm one of them, but I keep resisting every layer of something that seems more ridiculous. So I'm like, we're zapped out, that we're jammed into these things, and sex now is not even sex anymore. So all this is creating, there must be a lot of really bad people in bed, because all you're thinking about is, again, imagine, what were some of the terms that you do to activate this? Google Glass on. Okay, Google, let's go, or pull out. Okay.
Yeah, literally,
yes.
those are the words you use to get this thing
going. I don't
going.
care how hot you are. You come to my house and you get in my bed and put these fucking glasses on and go, action on. I'm like, get out of here. Get out of here. You
Go
suck.
gadget copter.
I can only
yeah.
imagine how bad this sex is about to be. Get the hell out.
Yeah. Also, isn't there some element that you would never want to? I think people like the idea of seeing themselves have sex, but I videotape myself having sex once a long time ago, and I played it. It was on an old school like mini DV camera, and then I plugged it into regular television, and everything's stretched, and it was horrible. But so I think it's the idea that people
stretched might be good though.
it was not stretched in the right way then, or maybe my wires were crossed.
I don't like hearing my own voice on in my voicemail thing going. I do not want to see myself having sex. No good can come of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you have this doesn't appeal to you in any way.
Not at all. I don't know. And like I said, I'm making a great old man because I'm gonna be complaining about every new technology. And I complained about TiVo before it got huge. I was like, I don't want to watch something that hasn't happened yet. And then I was like, okay, fine. It sounds pretty awesome. I've ended up embracing a lot of things.
Well, yeah, everything that I thought was stupid eventually wound up having something to in its favor. I'm sure at some point Google Glass will come up with the killer app. It's like, oh, that's why this thing exists. Great, sign me up. But until then, it just seems kind of ridiculous.
Right, and also the stuff sort of creeps up on us so fast. It's like, right now with your cell phone, you would never pick up a phone call. You always know who's calling you. But it was only 10 years ago that you might have had a landline that it would be like a ticking time bomb now if you never knew who was there at the other end, right? So is there any chance that I'm wrong about this and Google Glass will become like the next Segway? Remember, everybody thought we were all going to be riding around on little Segways, and now I see one guy doing it near where I live all the time, and it's like,
he's on a Segway with Google Glass on.
Double that guy is just.
That guy.
But is there? So you saw people at Sundance, and did you think? And now it's still on the early side of this.
And they could have both been Google employees for all I know. Right. So they're in the beta testing guys. I'm not gonna make a stance like, no, this is not going anywhere, because I don't want to be these newfangled horseless carriages aren't going anywhere, But I am dubious until they come up with something that makes it, necessary.
Yeah, you with them on that, Mr. Old Man who hates technology?
It's gonna make waves because we use things up so fast. Now we need new ways to have the cell phone going because everyone has one, and it's another way to have another connection, and we need something new now. That's just what we're expecting.
We need something new, and we'll give you something new next week because we will do this all over again. I thank Jayar and Alonso. Clips every day of the week. Subscribe. Okay, that's it. See ya.